Today's session, I'm I'm going to talk about this market overview um, for UAM, AAM, the opportunity and challenges. That was a presentation I made at the SAMPE Materials Innovation and Advanced Technology Leadership Forum. That actually they made that a short course type of session. I thought the material in there could be very relevant to what we talk about here. Um, so I update and expand a little bit on from the material and like to share with everybody here. And more importantly, like to get more feedback input. Just want to make a disclaimer. I don't pretend to know exactly what the market is going to look like, but rather put some information together. Let's share it. Let's talk about it. For the sake of the time and because it goes into different aspects of the topic, I would suggest if you see anything of interest, you want to ask a question or put in a note. I cannot see the, due to screen share, I cannot see the chat portion. So Elena is going to help if there's a notes in the chat session. But just stop me. Otherwise, once we pass through that pages, it may be a little bit challenging to go back. And of course, at the bottom are the dates that we suggest for the following meetings. Make a note to yourself, and Lena will send it out, of course, as well. And with that, I'm going to close this one and go ahead share my presentation. Okay. I think this is the one. All right, can you see it? Here's the presentation mode. Looks okay?
Yep, it works.
Okay, good deal. All right, as I said, that's the presentation is for the Society for Advancement of Material and Process Engineering. So I can, so it's a little bit tailored for the advanced material and manufacturing process, etc. But we still have a section that just talk about the overall possibilities and some of the forecast. And oh, sorry, my mouse is a little sensitive here. And of course, we quite often talk about AAM and UAM. For some folks, it's a little bit confusing. Talking with the AWG team sessions yesterday and day before, seemed like my understanding right now, AAM is the broader, more umbrella coverage of all the possible use, including fixed wing, electric, any advanced air mobility, vertical flight, air taxi, public service, everything. And UAM is a little bit more focused on the layman's term air taxi type operations, and along with it, the air traffic management operation challenges with it. If anybody has a different interpretation, I'm all ears. And of course, for our working groups, and including working group 4 here, it's just a lot of advancements in this new world. I remember that just 2 years ago, put out this chart, pretty much just conceptual pictures, renderings. Now, most of the pictures as shown here, almost 80% are actual flying photos. That is encouraging. That the kind of advancement, I'll have to say, in the aviation industry, I've been here for a while. This is improved encouragement. Now, what I'm going to do is jump back in. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll go through this first, and then I'll show a few additional slides at the end. And of course, we can look at the AAM, UAM operations market, and which include quite a bit. Air taxi, multimodal mobility. Not just we can fly to somewhere, but what are you going to do after you get there? You're going to jump into a ground transportation, Uber, Didi, whatever, or the subway system connection to the destination. Uh, so multimodal mobility is actually a bigger part of the integrated operation. Of course, the example of an airline, transit link, maybe I can live from my neighborhood, jump into one of those airplanes and connect me straight to international flights. That would be nice someday. And of course, I can guarantee you we're going to find corporate flight applications actually probably on the early stage. And personal transport, that can come in many, many different forms and different ways. Of course, the corporate flight, personal transport, we all dive into it big time in the working group one and working group one. And also recreation. I think some of those market forecasts, they may or may not have account for recreational markets. That will be interesting to find out. And of course, on-demand logistic cargo, that's a big part of it. I'll show you the data moving forward. And of course, our main interest for the working group 4 is public services, which covers a very broad range of opportunities. And just a little background, I think most of you already know this very well. What happened? Why all of a sudden this? My 2 cents was that partially is because convergence of many, not just one, many enabling technologies that add together. We got aerodynamics, flight control, computer, lift propulsion system, distributed studies and advancements, energy storage, charging. Without the cell phone and EV industry's advancement, we probably never see the flying aircraft with battery power or alternative energy systems. And of course, structured manufacturing. We've got 3D printing allow us to do things that we couldn't even think of before. The medium, lower volume production vehicle design capability, that's way advanced than just 10 years ago. And of course, navigation, sense and avoid. That's, to me, it's a great thing. Borrow the technology and application and experience learned from the UAV industry. That all those technology add together, I think, is really the reason why we're not able to have this new industry. And of course, there's a lot of challenges. Certification. We don't have a precedence in how you certify the first eVTOL or the second or the third. And after a few dozen, I think we'll have a well-established practice. The means of compliance. That you have to be, in many cases, different than the standard Part 23, Part 27 airplanes and helicopters and so on. And of course, the level of autonomous operation, simplified vehicle operation, the pilot training. What's the requirement? What do they have to do? What can they actually control? The reversion mode, not the same as the traditional aircraft anymore, because most of the functions are controlled by computers nowadays, at least for the eVTOL. Of course, longer range development, redeployment, for public service missions. Quite a bit of the challenge is how do you deploy a large fleet at a distance beyond the single flight. Of course, the acquisition and operating cost is going to be across the board opportunity and challenges for just about everybody. Any operation try to use this type of technology will have to deal with that, especially the early stage. How do you, at the low volume production, how do you keep the cost down? Of course, volume production going into the high volume. We were just talking about that at the beginning of the session. Transition from low volume to high volume is not simply write a check. That doesn't work that way. So a lot of challenges to in that front alone. Of course, unified command control. Is there a default mode that the governing agency can take over in case necessity and whatever? So just a topic that need to be looked at. And of course, operator and community adaptation, not just we'll talk about acceptance for the community, but not just community, the general public, but also operator, firefighters, police forces, would they open arm welcome this thing, or you need some convincing education? So let's look at the market assessment from different sources. The one of the very famous study was by Morgan Stanley, and they look at the total addressable market. That's a huge number. They updated the forecast. I think they first did it in 2018, and then they updated last year in May. The changes of their updates are, generally speaking, shifting more toward the right from schedule perspective, but the magnitude seems still there. If you look at that chart, I mean, it's almost overwhelming number. We're talking about trillions. The labor is in trillions. By 2050, $9 trillion industry. But one thing is important, make sure we understand it's total addressable market, which means not just the manufacturing of the eVTOL, but the operations, the service sector, the maintenance, even I assume that the person who sells you ice cream while you're waiting for the ride, that's part of the total addressable market. So got to understand that part. Now, for what Morgan Stanley says is that the business model of autonomous aircraft has potential to be far more economically superior to much of the ground-based ride-sharing model. The key word will probably be in the autonomous part of it. Okay, if you have a trained certified pilot in every flight, at the early stage, that's what people say we're going to do, many of them. But that has to transform to autonomous in order to realize the kind of potential we're talking about. Now, just for the sizing comparison, the global airline industry is valued at $818 billion in 2019. I use a number pre-pandemic so that it's more representative. Out of that $818 billion, if you were to look at the OEM manufacturer, Boeing's volume, the aviation portion of it, the commercial aviation part of the Boeing business, is around $100 billion average. And Airbus a little bit less than that. So if you add those two together, the OEM production in the airline business is only a quarter of the addressable market, okay, the total market. So that gives you a basic concept of, if you look at the total addressable market, especially in the eVTOL, the side operation portion, the ground connections and so on, the vertiports and so on, may actually be even higher percentage. That means the OEM portion may actually be lower percentage than 25%. Just my 2 cents. And I put some of the numbers for the eVTOL leading companies, and I didn't pick the company. So if you happen to be with one of the other companies, don't hit me because I just pulled from the Aviation Week ranking, the January 2022 ranking, and I pull some of the numbers that I can find that has the public funding sources and put the chart here.
Sorry to interrupt. If you ever need the numbers, the Aviation Week numbers come from us. So if you ever want the latest numbers, let me know.
Okay, who's speaking? I'm sorry, I can't see you, the names.
Yeah, you're right. My camera is off. This is Sergio.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I only use the Aviation Week's ranking for the company name. The actual funding, I compile different sources of my own, including the you're right, the vertical flight and other sources, and some of the numbers are not complete, I would say, because different sources report sometimes confusingly. So this is just my best take. I have to admit that I have not updated the funding number since January. So how dynamic the world is. Yeah, thanks for the note. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, and of course if you look at what do people think the application will be, we look at the Morgan Stanley, which is the chart on the left, is saying that actually by 2040, its total addressable market is about 1 trillion, and 52% are transport, logistic, cargo, parcel deliveries, and so on, and 46% are in the, I guess, a passenger. Of course, the small percentage on the military, government, and airlines. Personally, I think maybe the military government percentage could be higher. We'll see. But the key takeaway to me is that the cargo side is actually very large, or more than half what the predicted market size is. And so we say, okay, that's what Morgan Stanley says. And let's look at what Deloitte says on their forecast. And if you look at the two charts, two bar charts, I only pulled out the 2025, 2030, and 2035 numbers. But if you look at that, they're saying the same thing. The cargo and the passenger are about half-half. So that's interesting. Both assessment has similar, even though the absolute number may be different, but the percentage between cargo and passenger are very interesting. Both are critically important. And of course, we have seen some of the real advancements in the passenger eVTOL delivery development. Really encouraging. I guess Archer just flown the end of the year, and we know Lyft and Joby has been flying for quite a while. Vertical should fly soon, and EHang's being probably the leading in terms of flight hours and so on. So we'll see, but it's encouraging to me. And of course, there's quite a bit of advancement. Elroy showed their latest version of the vehicle. I think the picture may actually be the one version older, but there's actually quite a bit effort and advancements in the cargo type. So I guess that if you look at the previous charts on the market forecast, it makes sense that many companies, more and more companies, look at this market segment. And of course, they say, okay, how many aircraft are we talking about? Well, depends on who you believe. Morgan Stanley is thinking about 2,200 passenger eVTOL production by 2030. That seems achievable. Now we start looking at 14,200 units by 2035, and that's pretty interesting. It will be great. But guess what? 76,100 units by 2040. And guess what? That's the US market only. Okay. That is a huge, huge, huge number. If that realizes, that's why we're saying that the total addressable market may overshadow the current airline industry altogether, if that happens. And of course, I just want to say there's another quote from Roland Berger. They're thinking by 2050 it will be 100,000 passenger drone flying around. Okay, just for your sizing, referencing consideration. The number end up wherever it's going to be. But either way, we're looking at many probably very large numbers compared to traditional aircraft industry. So just for comparison, Airbus forecasts 39,000 airplanes over 20 years. They're normally pretty good at that prediction, the demand and replacements and so on. And look at the general aviation industry, including helicopter. If you look at the chart on the left, that is the current data from Gamma. If you look at that, I mean, we only hit 3,500 airplane a year the last 10 years, whatever. But can we build higher number airplane? Yeah, if you go look at 1978, 1979 data, yeah, we're in the 18,000 airplanes a year. So is it not possible? I'll say it's definitely doable. Just how we're going to go about doing it. And just for comparison again, if we look at the helicopter market, currently the total operating fleet is 32,000, and 39% is in North America. But and piston seem to be growing. I take a little bit the hint on that one and say, you know what? Cost, affordability, and availability may be very important for people operating vertical flights, even in a traditional helicopter world. So that's going to be interesting. Now, commercial UAV market is another interesting one. If you look at the bottom chart, the Asia Pacific actually is the largest sector or region sector that operates the UAVs. And also the growth rate seem pretty robust. From 2020, 2023 to 2027, you're talking about threefold in 7 years. That is encouraging of a new technology market that has never existed before. And we see this healthy growth. So that gave me more confidence in the possibility for eVTOL market. And of course, since we're working before, we have to talk about the public service eVTOL market. So I pulled out the helicopter mission charts on the right. That if you look at that, all the use cases and so on, only 26% are for air taxi, charter, or personal services. Everything else, and corporate business, everything else is the 74% are public service missions, type of missions. Okay, so lead me to believe that, especially at the early stage of the market development and the use cases and opportunity, and of course the personal paying customer face challenges, infrastructure, airspace management. I still believe that at the first 10 years or so, that public service market may actually be a larger percentage of the overall eVTOL use cases. Of course, we can talk about analog approach. Say, okay, where is the business opportunity? Vehicle development, manufacturing, system supplier, special equipment, operations. Yeah, big time actually. Service maintenance, infrastructure, very important. Okay, charging, transportation, operating base, whatever. So within that, each topic has a huge amount of different diverse business opportunity. So it's a huge ecosystem in my mind. And of course, platform and mission capabilities. What kind of platform are going to be in high demand? I guess the market would tell us. I put a picture down below showing that from the foldable, truckable, or can fold arm, put it into the cargo container, shipping to anywhere around the world and put it out for deployment. That kind of application definitely will be attractive for many government use for sure, public service, and also even for commercial business. So we'll see how the market takes us. And of course, one of the key things I want to make a point of, I think I'm preaching to the choir here, that the technology, we're seeing a lot of advancement, and certification is going to be challenging because right now, FAA, ELSA, Transport Canada, CAC are not quite synchronized. A lot of efforts being put in, try to synchronize it, but because it's so new, it's going to be a little while, I would say, before we can start to converge again. So it can impose some challenges for some of the OEMs and suppliers and so on to how to certify this new different concept and operating systems, logistics, service, maintenance, flight training, and so on. So I would like to say that the certification will backdrive the design concept and details. If we don't look at that way right at the beginning, right at the start, company will be forced into major design changes in order to, and which takes time and money and whatever. So it will take some real innovative ideas and operations and concepts to couple with proven certification practices and so on, may be the best way forward. And since this presentation was talking to the advanced material folks or industry, so I brought a few slides about the cost-effective production manufacturing. I think the market demand and forecast is one of the challenges because, as I said earlier, we had to design a vehicle and select the supplier and technology partner to focus on a specific target production rate, because if you're too high or too low, either way can be challenging, could cost initial price too high or require too much upfront investment. There's a lot of balancing and trade-off there, and we have to really divert a lot of attention to how to develop prototype, pilot production. How do we transition to volume production? And the test certification article, once you certify, you don't just operate changing. The change can be costly and time consuming as well. So between the show our progress versus get to the finishing line first, it's going to be interesting. But I am encouraged by some of the new manufacturing, high-speed machining, 3D printing, different kinds of material. Even if the part cannot be printed, we could use 3D printing to generate fast process for tooling development. So there's a lot of new, and the design tools are getting better and better. So it's encouraging. Of course, one of the development needed is the infrastructure and operations. How do we do that? I mean, vertiport operating system, where do you put the vertiport? How about the local, the blockage of the GPS signals into the urban canyon? The flat path, the clearance for in and out of the passage. Are we going to have a dynamic and flexible airspace management system following a certain corridor? FAA is looking at initially a rigid corridor, now looking at dynamic corridor as needed concepts and so on. So we'll see. But charging, it's going to be big time, right? Fire safety, charging and high power. Do we have enough power grid capacity to do that? And of course, SVO training, facility licensing, spare part logistics, maintenance and operating training. I mean, do we have certified AMP mechanics at each site? Is that practical? Do we need that? How do we operate that? So maintenance and operation training. And of course, a distributed on-demand service and maintenance system. Can we have that kind of dynamic operation, therefore come with a dynamic service support system? And of course, autonomy training, airspace management, to me, is one of the most interesting and most challenging aspects. Not just the eVTOL flying around. eVTOL has to share the national airspace system with the commercial airlines, the legacy helicopters and fixed-wing airplanes, GA sectors, and forthcoming tens of thousands of drones for various applications, and with a passenger cargo eVTOL operating in the mix. So NASA FAA has been working, I would say, impressively fast-paced on this, developing the concept, this network, the system. But it's going to be a big, all hands on deck type of effort. And of course, composite technology is, to me, is one of the key element for the producibility, not the traditional high dollar, but I'm more thinking about perhaps higher volume, identify which part of the structure are truly structure strength critical, that you need true high performance, highest performance material and processes, which part of the vehicle are, say, stiffness driven design, which part of it you don't have that critical, you have a good opportunity to trade off between, for example, the thermoplastic composite, the potential promises of 10-15-minute processing forming time versus 3 to 5 hours or 10-hour processing time with autoclave. So we have to look at the lesson learned from the previous capability and performance to how do we develop product and processes for tailored medium to high volume production platform and system, like the picture on the right, that they're leveraging the motorsports composite methodology for development purposes. And of course, the possibility is looking at a lot of elements of the eVTOL could be and likely to be composite. And I don't think it's one composite fit all. It's going to be many different kind. But one of the interesting thing is that I think for the industry as a whole, we really need to try to establish down to a few really, really promising, most suitable materials and process, especially out of the autoclave process and so on. The reason I said that is because if 200 company OEM want 150 different kind of materials, to me it's a waste. There's no reason that 200 different design require 150 different process materials. But if we can consolidate that down to a dozen or so, then from certification, from the testing, from standard database and so on, the industry can really, really help each other out. So that would be my 2 cents on that. So I say, what is the size for the composite or the advanced material market? Just in the US alone, I would say, if composite airplane, eVTOL airframe assembly cost is about 10 to 15% of the production OEM cost of the whole aircraft. And let's assume each unit production cost is around $700,000 per unit. Personally, I like to see it drive down to like 150 to 200, but not all design can do that. Let's say if we use 700K per unit, and the market value at 2040, somewhere around 160K based on prior chart. At the 45K average value of composite in the airframe, that's $14 billion US market alone. Now, that timing may be shifting. The total maximum volume unit number may be optimistic, but at least we may be talking about billions of dollars in the industry of composite industry in the US alone, let alone globally. And of course, as I say, it really need to be or has to be certifiable, right? All the process, the control, the temperature, the resin, the deviations. People who have been through certification process, we have to really take, in many cases, the band, the lower performance band of each steps, each process, each variable, and that takes a lot of performance of the certified material. And if we can make the material and the process more consistent with some smaller variations, the same material can means more. We can take more performance out of it as a certified. So we will see, but it's as I mentioned before, the flow time is critically important. The cost of the raw material and the process itself, as well as the tooling cost. How long can a tool last? How many units can you amortize it? And of course, anytime we can look at other autoclave, like including thermoplastic composite, would be encouraging, would be desirable. And of course, a lot of challenges. Too many projects. OEM potential customers. As a material supplier, who do you work with? You can't work with 150, 200 companies at the same time. Of course, it has to be aviation grade, it has to be certifiable, the production control, traceability of the process of fabrications, and what rate do we target the specific process for or material for? How do we certify what kind of testing, from the element to the compound to the sub parts, the full assembly to the whole aircraft? Everything costs money, so anything time we can share, it will be nice. Of course, additive manufacturing is dear to my heart. That's a picture I took on one of my UAV wing section constructions. The interesting part is, I can make a single part with all kinds of structural elements and subsystem installation, really end up lighter and cheaper. So, with my limited hands-on experience, I would say that the possibility is endless. The whole industry is moving forward with continuing adding materials, including metal, plastics, and so on, composites, and so on. Even long fiber may be forthcoming, so we'll see. All right, so that's basically my summary for some of the thoughts and ideas addressing the overall market and the target applications, and the potential advanced material market segment opportunities. Now, of course, I have to take the opportunity to introduce all the working groups. And back in January, the working group 2 and 3 has not quite finished the consolidation yet, and now the working group 2, 3 is now one integrated team. So encouraged by that progress. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, working group 1 look at the anywhere from RSA to Part 91 operations and so on. And we have working group 4 is looking at all the possibilities and look at where do we how do we enable, what's the roadmap look like, and how do we enable the applications and opportunities. And of course, it's a broad range of operations and market. So let's look at quickly, just working group 1. I think most of you guys are already familiar with this, so I'm going to go through this real quick. But if you look at some of the recent advancements, it's really covered quite a bit. Recreational, personal commuting, corporate shuttle, single pilot 103 operations, and so on. There's a lot of interesting possibilities in just working group 1 coverage. Of course, 2 and 3 is consolidated. Got anywhere from suburban, regional transit, urban air taxi. Of course, regional package delivery, distribution, and local package deliveries, aircrane lift systems, and so on and so on. So that's one of the more challenging from regulatory certification airspace management perspective sector. And of course, we'll look at the roadmap, the metrics, and looking at white papers. This is the white paper content for the working group 2 and 3. And of course, this is working group 4, looking at search and rescue, law enforcement, firefighting, medical transport, emergency humanitarian response, and military operations. And of course, we definitely already have the white paper published. In case any of you are new to the team, like Jeff, this white paper is available in our working group webpage. There's a link there to download, so feel free to do so. And of course, I have this chart that's showing that different missions, what's the use cases, as well as who may be fire department, brigade, office for wildland fire, who may be the user, the operators. So I'm not going to go through the detail, but if you just simply look at the listing, and this is not even exhaustive listing, this is just a example of listings, that the possible use cases are tremendous. And that's why I keep believing that the first 10 years, we may see more real world application in these areas than the urban air taxi in big scale. I may be wrong, but we'll see. And of course, we want to leverage commercial eVTOL for public service missions for one reason, cost. If we only build vehicles specifically for public services, we need some of those, don't take me wrong, because certain missions, certain design, you have to be dedicated design. But there are opportunities that many missions can be just like helicopter. We have certain helicopter designs as a baseline, and we add different platform systems, add-on equipment to it to enable different missions. And that, I think, is going to be valuable. That if we can leverage a commercial off-the-shelf cost system whenever possible, it lower the acquisition ownership cost, that enable us to have more of this platform into the public service operator hand. And of course, we do, as I said, we do need mission-specific vehicle design, including like the picture on the left in the middle. It's a rescue vehicle. That's a flying rescue vehicle to be able to self-deploy into earthquake zone. The right-hand side is the picture that's shown the concept design of a medical transport. If there's a injury on the highway, the medical person get over there, stabilize the patient, and put it into this thing here, push a button, and you get to the hospital in 10 minutes. And of course, I have to show that there's challenges and development needed. And but with challenge and development needed, that comes with our business opportunity. So it's really actually not always bad, right? And of course, there's some vehicle-specific capability we need to develop. And of course, autonomy, training, airspace management, especially in emergency operations, also need to be attended to. And of course, operation, logistics, and support. You can't just get the people and the vehicle to a location. You've got to continue to support that in order to enable ongoing operations. And of course, unconventional operation mode evaluation. We really need to get some of the OEM platform into the operator's hand and start with simulated operations and then maybe pilot test operations and so on. Because I'm a strong believer that only when we really go use it, we will then know how to improve the way we use it, how to improve the platform, what kind of other changes we may need, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, funding acquisition, acceptance is always important, don't take me wrong. And if you look at the picture on the lower side, the right-hand side, I really want to, I've been kind of vocal on that we need to make sure that the megawatt charging stations for the trucks will be compatible with eVTOL systems. Maybe you have to bring a plug, converter plug, but has to have that some level of compatibility to leverage others' benefit. And of course, I just show a couple of SA Edge report on the eVTOL, a little bit further deep dive into these white paper topics. Okay, so moving forward, total ecosystem. What is this? Is, as I said, this is really a complete ecosystem. So is it fiction or reality? I'm pretty encouraged. If I were to put my 2 cents in, I say it's coming, and it's opportunity, a lot of opportunity, and a lot of challenges. So I'm not going to go through too much detail here, but but leveraging innovations, I think, is going to be a key to enable and make this whole industry realize. But if you look at some of the predictions, even if we take the low end of the predictions, it's still a huge industry. So I'm encouraged by it. So I'm open for what you think. By the way, just a couple more slides I'll show you. At the conference, the moderator asked me to introduce myself. So, okay, one is the simplest. Some of you know me better, but I'm not sure you know what I did in the past. But so I put a few pictures together. That's some of the aircraft I worked on the upper corner. That's a special mission side-looking array radar platform mounted onto, it's the Swedish project mounted onto a metro airliner. And of course, that is a 49,000 feet Mach 0.83 cruise capable business jet, 2,500 nautical mile range. It's only one in that $10 million or under price range that I know of that can go from San Francisco to Honolulu without landing in the water. So anyway, that's some of the, just show you some of the airplanes I worked on. And that's one of my pet projects. It's called the Diamond D Jet. And that's the team we have on the project that it's all composite single engine 5C jet. It's one of the very few probably airplane that designed to cost at the beginning. And I got a huge worksheet tracking every cost items, managing control, the suppliers, and so on at the beginning. But it's a really interesting because it's a start from scratch project and all the way and negotiated certification with Transport Canada, with the FAA. Well, I have to say it's fun. It's interesting. And of course, there's a few other things like a UAV on the top and the hovercraft. I got married on one. And of course, I had to work on the different kinds of power systems and engines and diesel, jet fuel powered aircraft and so on. So anyway, I also wrote a book. Anyway, that's my little background. So any thoughts, input, suggestions, ideas?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Tiffany Atkins, and I couldn't join on the Microsoft Teams video chat, so I'm listening on the phone. Will there be like a video I can go back and watch this on, or will you send it to people, like a video link?
You mean,
Things that you're showing, the
Yes,
presentation, things that you're showing right now. Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering. Thank you.
and if you guys interested, I can put this one in the PDF form on the onto the Google Drive, our working group Google Drive. So if you guys interested, I'll go ahead after the meeting. I'll go ahead upload it.
Yes, please, at least to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And if you don't know how to get to the Google Drive, ask Alina. Sure. Oh, or I can send you a link, but Alina knows it best.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, it's hard to understand if you're only able to listen in, because that's quite a bit, quite a few charts there that it's hard to know what the hell are you talking about.
I know. I was trying to visually image it, but it wasn't coming through in my head right then. So I was like, I definitely need a recap on this.
No problem. I will upload the file.
Yeah, hey everyone, this is Jeff Alexi from San Bernardino County Fire here in Southern California. Yeah, I definitely see a huge market for us on the public safety, and I'll just throw it out there also. We cover the largest county in the U.S. by size. We have two major freeways. I'm sure everybody knows where Las Vegas is. We cover the freeway that goes there, and then I'm sure everybody, for the most part, knows like Lake Havasu in Arizona. We cover that. So, you know, there's a lot of times where we have response times of an hour, hour and a half to get to a medical emergency, or a vehicle fire, or, you know, traffic accident. So, you know, having these type of platforms that we can either load up with, you know, equipment or personnel or EMS equipment to get out to these areas a lot quicker will definitely help out. Same with like wildland, you know, we cover wildland areas. So there's just a huge market, and I'm very excited again to be a part of this working group and look forward to everything that we can do.
Hey, good to have you join us. Yeah, that's so. As I said earlier, now we really want to learn from you, your perspective, your view of what's realistic and what's really needed. Otherwise, we can do a lot of wishful thinking. You know, we have talked to a few folks, but with you having the largest county territory, coverage territory, that I think will put a nice perspective to what we should consider and what we probably can push for.
Absolutely.
Hey, Jeff, this is Stephen Tibbetts from Ziva Aero, and it's really great to have you on the call. If you could put your email in the chat, I'll reach out to you later. But Ziva has joined the club of eVTOL companies that are flying a full-scale prototype now as of January. So, and the emergency services market is definitely in our wheelhouse.
Okay, perfect. All right.
And Johnny, I like the presentation, but you need to get a picture of Ziva in there somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I really need your picture. You know, send me a couple of good ones. I'll make sure I'll get it into the next presentation.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, I mean, some of the pictures that you have are of defunct vehicles at this point. So let's promote
them. Yeah, get the active ones. Yes, absolutely. And actually, you know, I have the request. You know, as soon as you can, you know, I want to go fly your stuff. It looks so much fun. I tell you.
Yeah, we're making progress. That's good.
Yeah, that's encouraging. That's encouraging.
All right, that email address is in the chat for everybody. So, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Good deal.
But I don't have a chat. So how can I get the email? Will that be in do I need to do anything special since I'm on phone and not on like Microsoft Teams?
Well, Jeff,
personally don't
how
know.
complicated is your email address? Is this something you can spell it out?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's JALEXY at sbcfire.org. So it's JALEXY at sbcfire.org.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I got to be the difficult one. I'm so sorry.
No problem at all.
But thank you.
Good deal. All right. Anything else, folks? By the way, I'll put it out there. If you and others think of something that we should discuss or look at, dive into, let me know. Shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever. As I said, previous meetings, that our activity is not limited to just online meeting sessions. So really, a lot of work's being done when we're not on the meeting time. So we can do one-on-one small group discussions and work on additional white paper and so on. The roadmap. So any idea, any thoughts, any suggestions, any questions, please just contact me, Alina, and we'll work together as a team. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if nothing else for the moment, I'll see you guys next month.
Thank you, Johnny. Cheers.
Thank you. All right.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Bye.